Today, I want to talk to small and medium businesses about governance, risk, and compliance, and talk about a tool or a methodology they can use to make their life easier when it comes to the evaluation process of companies. There's any number of reasons why you might ask for documentation from a vendor or a potential vendor. And sometimes we call these compliance artifacts, those documents that they give you. Maybe you're renewing your insurance policies and that they have verbiage in there about your cybersecurity. Insurance companies are asking companies for more details about their risk profile so that way the insurance company can either help them with tools or have the right amount of coverage. And then there's always the auditing. Maybe it's an internal audit. Maybe you're getting ready to go through some mergers and acquisitions. And so you want to take a look at what you have inside of your environment and be able to compare that to the external firm's environment and compare and contrast between mergers and acquisitions. Or maybe there's just some sort of audit that you need to have for compliance. Maybe it's a statutory compliance issue. Maybe there's regulations. Maybe there's industry compliance. But you get the point. There's all kinds of reasons why you could be asked for artifacts, compliance artifacts. Asking your vendors for these tools ahead of time makes your life easier because then you are able to respond when you're asked for some of these documents. But then there's always that other reason. There's that high pressure sales process. When we're talking about buying software, be it, an individual application, maybe it's software as a service, a platform as a service, maybe you're working with a new managed service provider. There's all types of cybersecurity concerns when we work with these types of entities. But there's another reason why you should ask for these artifacts from your supporting vendors. It's about your clients, it's about your customers. Even if you don't think you have a lot of data that's valuable to some sort of cyber threat, you more than likely have some sort of data. Credit card information for at your point of sale. Maybe it is your marketing data, your aggregated list of potential customers. You have an obligation to secure their data. So these are some of the reasons why you might be asked for documentation. Now let's take a look at what some of these documentation artifacts look like. Whoa, now this is a big list. And it's rare that any one company would have everything on this list. But these are just some examples and some things to shape our discussion. One of the values of asking for this type of due diligence packet during the sales process is it lets the sales team know who you are. I was mentored by a wise general counsel once. When we were working with a managed service provider and they were going to provide some sort of technical services, the contract that they gave to the general counsel for review was antiquated. It was boilerplate language. It had unenforceable clauses. There was all kinds of reasons why this contract was just weak, and he wasn't interested in exposing the company he represented to risk. And so what we did is we asked the sales team for some of these due diligence documents. And what that did is it forced the conversation with the sales team to occur inside with their internal partners to say, hey, what are these documents? This company is asking us for them. Can you help us get them? And that changed the conversation to a different level of maturity. We suddenly had different people sitting in on the sales meetings, and those people said that, hey, the contract we were sent was old. It was out of date. It was filled with unenforceable language. So just asking for this list will help you elevate the process. And if you ask early enough in the sales process, it sets that tone without the shock and awe when you're still haggling over price and the deadline about getting the discount at the end of the fiscal year. But let's talk about some of these documents. What are some practical terms that we can understand about these documents? The certificate of good standing should be very easily obtained. Their insurance certificate should be easily obtained. When we talk about things like their new hiring checklist, we want to see if they train their employees on security awareness, or if we want to talk about their disaster recovery plan or their incident response policy. They might not give you those documents, but they might give you a statement attesting that they have them. And that's an important document for you and your insurance carrier and for your ethical obligation to your clients. And then when you take a look at some of the other compliance documents, there are some things that they should just have. If we're talking about credit card information, they should have the PCI compliance information. If they're providing some sort of web services for you, maybe they're managing a website, having an OWASP vulnerability assessment is key. So you get the idea that just asking for these documents will really help set that tone. I was working with a couple of young entrepreneurs once, and they were building that middleware between systems where marketing data was being shaped and formed and put into another system, and their potential new client list were a bunch of law firms. And I asked them some simple questions. I asked them for some items on this list. They were a brand new company. They said they were going to take a while to get them together, but I got the impression that I had somewhat blindsided them. But during that conversation, I also asked them, where are you storing the data? Their answer was vague. And so when I pressed, they didn't have a good answer. They said it was stored in the cloud and it was in all these other different countries. And they thought that was a great thing for redundancy. And they thought that's where I was going. But we were talking about law firms. And law firms have not only an ethical obligation, but they have obligations that are statutory and also industry standards from the American Bar Association about keeping their data in the United States. And law firms in other countries have similar obligations. And so I asked them rhetorically, give me your client list because that's a group of law firms I want to talk to about cybersecurity. And, it was rhetorical. We broke off the engagement, but the point was made that we take our client data seriously and we only deal with serious service providers that do as well. And their logic was, well, it's pre-client information. It's all part of the marketing process. They're not really clients. And that's really set me back a couple of steps because here we have technically smart entrepreneurs and they know better. And they were still doing wrong because the idea was the people whose livelihoods were involved weren't as important as them building this software platform. So when it comes to governance and compliance, there are third-party tools that make your life so much easier. There's a couple I would recommend. KnowBe4 has a GRC platform. Wistic has a platform. I'd love to talk with any of you about how you can get involved with those. But there are platforms that make your life easy. If you get to that level where you need to have some sort of third-party tool that's managing this service for you. But know as a small to medium business, just asking for these documents is going to set that tone during that contract negotiation. So I encourage you to ask for them. Now, I have a 2-page PDF you can ask us for, and we will provide it to you just to serve as a prompt during your process when you're talking with the software provider or the technology provider, and some simple definitions of all of those documents that we listed on the previous page. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Here's how you can get in touch with us. Looking forward to seeing you in the future and check out our other content.